Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lukasz Skowronek. I have over 10 years experience in developing CRM applications. For the last 2 years, I've been developing Lightning Web Component with CPE on Salesforce platform. I'm 8 times Salesforce certified, including W, Omni Studio, and also MuleSoft. I specialize with data integration and data migration. You can see my details on the screen, so if you would like to contact me or connect via LinkedIn, please do so. Okay, today's agenda. What are we going to cover today? We are going to talk today about CPE, which stands for Custom Property Editor. We'll see how to create one, where we can use it, and how to register the CPE with Lightning Web Component. I will show you the live demo also with the code, an example LWC with advanced CPE. And at the end, I'm sure we'll have enough time for any question or queries you might have. So let's start. Okay, let's define exactly what the custom property editor is, what the CPE is. Basically, the custom property editor, it's another Lightning Web Component. So it will contain HTML, it will contain JS or JavaScript, XML file, and also CS optionally if you want to add it. So you can see this on the screen. But why we would like to use CPE or Custom Property Editor? By creating Custom Property Editor, developer can ensure that user have more intuitive and more user-friendly experience when configuring the components. Overall, the custom editor, it's a very powerful tool that helps developer create more dynamic, more reusable, and more customizable Lightning Web Component. So what are the steps we have to take to actually create CPE or Custom Property Editor? First, we need to create Lightning Web Component that represent Custom Property Editor. This component will be responsible for rendering the user interface and configuring the properties. Second, we have to implement rendering logic in the custom editor components HTML template and JavaScript file. And this will include creating appropriate input fields, drop-downs, checkboxes, or any other form elements to capture desired configuration. So any lighting elements or any HTML elements you can implement and you can add to the HTML template. Third, we need to wire up events handler in the custom property editor component to capture and store user input. So everything what you're going to configure it in the custom editor, it has to be stored somewhere. So when you run your flow, that information has to be retrieved by your main components. And I will show you how to do it later. And the fourth, create your main Lightning Web Components, of course, with properties, and register custom property editor in the XML metadata file, which is very easy, and I will show you on the next screen. Okay, so as we all know, to expose property in the flow builder, we need to define it in the XML file. And as you can see here, to register CPE or custom property editor, you need to just add the attribute configurator editor, followed by CPE or your component name. You have to also add the C as a common namespace. And of course, if you are developing this for your package, replace this with your namespace of your package. As you can see here, I've just added into that XML file few properties with different data types: string, Boolean, integer, date, datetime, as object. But for most of the cases, when you're actually going to develop the LWC with CPE, you're going to work with string and also as object. And I will explain you why, and we'll show you an example. Can we use somewhere else CPE? Does anybody know? We can also use CPE in the flow action or Apex action. And registering process is very similar to Lightning Web Component. You're just adding attribute. The difference is you're adding that attribute configuration editor into invocable method annotation. And on the right-hand side, you can see example how this custom editor will look like. I've got one question that anybody develop or anybody use before CPE in Lightning Web Components? 1, 2, 3 people. That's good. Yeah, Okay. So let's say we've got some requirements to build LWC with selectable cards. And the requirements are users should have an option to choose if one or more cards can be selected. Second, users should be able to specify the text for the header, description, and the value. The value could be like product code. Third, users should be able to choose the color for the background color, header, and also description text color. Fourth, there should be an option to choose if selection is required or not. So we have to decide if user can go to another screen without selecting the card, and how many cards will be displayed in the row. Those are our requirements to build that LWC, and that's how the card will look like. Well, that's just an example. Okay, so how we can achieve that? The first option would be to go with standard auto-generated editor. And you can see on the right-hand side, this is a standard editor, which we are all familiar with. And on the left-hand side, I have added 5 cards. So you can see for each card, I added property, header 1, header 2, header 3, description 1, 2, value 1, 2, 3, and et cetera, et cetera. But you can see here straight away, if you want to configure it up to 10, 20 cards, how many property you would have to create. And also, you are already limited, in this example, up to 5 cards. Of course, if you want to add 6, 7, again, 3 property for each, and so on and so on. But we've got another option, to use LWC with CPE, with Custom Property Editor. And as you can see straight away, actually our XML file will look much smaller. We need only 2 properties to actually configure it, the CPE, and we are not limited how many cards we can create. We can create 10, 50, 20, and still we can use only 2 properties. One would be to hold output value, type of string, and also config. This is also type of data type of string. And all configuration would be held in that one property as a JSON object. On the right-hand side, you can see how the custom editor is going to look like. So you can see there is 2 sections. Top section, add new card, specify a header, description, value, card type, if it's single or multi-select, add new button. We've got also card preview, which is fantastic. With the custom editor, without running actually flow, you can see how the card is going to look like. You can reorder, you can remove it, you can add new one. You've got the grid size. So this is our one of the requirements where we have to specify how many cards it's going to show in the row. And of course, we can specify the color for the background, for the header and description. And again, we can use the color picker, which is fantastic. We don't have to go and find somewhere in Google hex number for the colors. And at the bottom, probably see there is a checkbox if selection is required. So let's say we had requirements. We have built LWC using CPE. So now we're going to build our first flow, screen flow, and tested our components. Okay, so we have built gaming desktop configurator. And as you can see here, to create the first PC, we have to select motherboard. Second, we need to, of course, add some processor and the graphic card. And as you can see here on this screen, user is able only to select one card from the group of selection. We need to only select the memory, RAM, and also a hard drive. And on the last screen, the user needs to select some accessories, monitor, keyboard, mouse, and etc. And as you can see here, this is the same component. And user is able to select more than one card. So let him choose all accessories. We'll go now to the summary screen. Just check if the order is correct. And he can place an order now. And we'll just quickly look into the record, how the record looks like, if all information has been populated into the correct field. It's looking good. And also accessories. It went to the multi-select pick list, which is great. Okay, so that's that short presentation. We had requirements. We built LWC with CPE, and we have built the screen flow. So I'm just going to now open the tab with the screen, with the flow, and we'll show you quickly how this very simple, I think I have to put this to here, how this very simple flow is built. Okay, so as you can, I'm just going to make a little bit smaller. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got just 5 screens. The same component has been dropped in those 4 screens, and on the 4th, we've got just summary screen, and we are creating records. So nothing fancy, all standard stuff. Okay, what I would like to show you, I would like to show you that component which I call dev group demo. And this is our custom editor. And as you can see here, as I showed you on the slide, we've got color picker, grid size, add new, and card preview. And as you can see here, you can straight away see what card you have been added, and also all the information. So let's say we're going to add another one. Do you want to make a little bit bigger, or all good? Yeah. Okay. So, okay, so let's just add this superboard. Okay, and the value would be the same. Okay, but what we're going to change, just to make it a little bit stand out, for example, I don't know, we're going to add background with different color, and just you can add the card. And in the preview, it's our new shiny card. So it's that simple. And actually, there's no limitation like in the first scenario where you can configure it up to the static number of cards, 5, 10, or 15. When you're using CPE, you can build something like this, and you can actually add as many cards as you want. And of course, by the way, this two Lightning Web components, CPE and the main component, has been built just for this demo. So it's not ready, production ready. So probably if that would be me, I would probably add remove, edit, and reorder as well, plus some extra maybe functionality to configure this card for the height, width, or size, something like this. Okay, so that's how the flow is built and how CPE works. And I would like to show you also the code behind it. And I will explain everything, how does it work. Okay, so can everybody see this okay? Yeah. Okay, so we'll jump in first into the main component. Where's my mouse? Here, okay. To HTML. So here, okay, so nothing fancy. It's just lighting layout, iterating through the card, and I've got my child components called visual picker. So that's the card itself to render the cards, and I'm assigning the grid size, so I can specify by the grid how many cards is going to be displayed in the row. So we'll probably first look into that visual picker, and the reason why I use the child component, because I'm using actually the same code in both places. One, I'm using in the main component, and the second, I'm using the same, basically the same code, the same iteration with lighting layout in our CPE cards preview. So you don't have to repeat the code, and of course, following the dry, don't repeat yourself. Okay, so looking on the visual picker side, again, I'm just going to actually hide this. We've got some field set, divs, span. So again, nothing fancy, just rendering the card itself. And as you can see here, it's dynamically applying or giving the header text and description. And I've got 2 refs to actually reference this element and change the card color in JS. And I'm going to show you this now. Okay. Visual Picker JavaScript. We've got all public properties with API decorator, which is coming from the parent component. We've got one method, or actually handler. When the card is selected, I'm dispatching just the custom event to notify the parent that the card has been selected. That's the name of my event. And I'm actually passing back my all cards with all details, with type, with description text, and etc. And I'm just using the separately method for that event. As you can see here, this is just custom event, and detail would be that object of that card. So nothing new. On render callback, what I'm doing, I'm just referencing these two elements, and if they do exist, I'm just applying some basic style to change the color for each card. So there is probably 3 or 4 different options how we can apply the style to CSS dynamically from JS. I've just choose this one because it's very transparent what actually we are applying, changing background color and color. So that's actually how the card is built itself. So as you can see here, probably if you remove some spaces, it's like 20 lines of the code, HTML, another 20 lines of the code, so not a lot. Okay, we'll jump in now to see how actually JS for the main component look like. So we've got some variables. Actually, well, first of all, I need to mention that I'm using 2 decorator, API and track. I'm sure you are all familiar with this. Regarding this, you have to import flow attribute change event from the lighting flow support. I'm not sure everybody used this before, but I will explain what it does and why we have to use it. Okay, so we've got few vars. Of course, we have to have config and output. This is our parameter configured in our XML file, and we have to decorate this with API. And I've got some 2 arrays, which one is going to hold the cards for me, so I can iterate through them and show on the screen. And one, this is going to be which card is selected, and that's the array as well. And I've got group name, selected card, and the grid size with default value. Going further, okay, we've got only one handlers, and that handlers, it's handling the event coming back from the child component, from that visual picker. And what I'm doing here, I'm grabbing that card, checking in the switch statement what type it is. If it's radio, it's single selected, so I'm just grabbing the value directly from the value. And if it's multi, I'm just performing some checks, adding this to the array, finding this card if I need to. If it's found, I'm reversing back check value. So if it's true, will be false. If it's false, would be true. And if I wouldn't find the card, I'm adding this check. It's true because it has been selected for the first time. And again, I'm adding this to the array of the cards. And that's probably the most important line of this code. In the one-liner, I'm just filtering, grabbing all the cards which they've been selected. And that line actually will make sense for the accessories, where we can select different card or unselected as well. So I'm grabbing all the cards which they've been selected, using map to grab the value, and joining this but semicolon. And already I've got the value which could be inserted directly into multi-select pick list. And I don't have to do anything with it. Okay, and at the end, of course, I have to dispatch this event. And this event, what this event does, it's actually inform the flow builder that the output variable or parameter, which we specify in the XML file, the value has changed, and we have to update this value. So this value would be available on the next screen. So as you have seen, we went from one screen to another, to third. On the 4th screen, we just read this value from that output value, and we can put the summary screen. And also from that value as well, we were able to create new record for that order. That's why we need that event. And this event, I will show you as well how does it work. I put it in separately here. So that event, to fire, you have to specify new flow attribute event. And please remember, you have to import this from the lighting flow support. And this will take two parameters, one attribute name and attribute value, or just the name of your property and the value which you want to insert it. And you have to dispatch this event as normally you will do with custom event. We've got some callbacks as well. So here, what I'm doing, I'm just checking if that config exists, if it's not undefined, so I won't get error. And if it does, I know that would be the JSON format. So I'm just parsing back, because please remember that config we specify as a string. So at this point, this variable config would be as a string. But I know this is going to be JSON string. So I can parse it back, I get my object back, and I can start using in JS, which is much easier rather than performing some operation on the string. So I've got my cards type, config value. This is array and holding all the cards. So as you can see, I'm applying to the card list, which is array. And that's iterate through on the HTML with for each loop. I've got the grid size as well and the group name. So I'm grabbing just information from that config to apply to my styling or to my UI. And the last, we've got validate method. What this does, this is interface where actually every time user will click next on the screen flow, this method would be fired. So actually you can tell to the flow if everything is correct and user can go to another screen. So in this scenario, what I'm doing, I'm just checking if that output value is empty or not. And of course, if it's empty and you configure it in your custom editor, is selection required? You don't want to user to go to another screen. So how we can do that? So in that scenario, you have to return it object back, is valid equal to false, and you can give the error message. And again, I hard-coded this message, but usually what I do for my components, I will show later one of my components where I have built for my package. You can actually specify this in your config, in your custom editor. So that could be fully dynamically applied by your admin or by person who is building this, this flow. And of course, if it's all okay, returning is valid equal to true, and user will be able to go to another screen. So again, just if we'll take all the spaces, probably that code will take like 45 lines of the code. So you can see not a lot of code on the main component. And the last, we will jump into the CPE component. And by the way, my preferences is usually giving the same name for the main component and for the CPE. And for the CPE, I'm just adding CPE at the end. So there's two benefits of doing that. You can see straight away that CPE or that component, the CPE component for the component above. And usually giving the same name, it will show you in the Visual Studio Code one under another. So it just makes sense when you start dealing with a lot of Lighting Web components. It's easier to find. So going to HTML code, again, I'm just using accordion with two sections, add new card. We've got here some lighting inputs, type of text, and that's for header, description, and where is that? Header, description, and also the value. We've got the combo box also for the card type and lighting button to add new cards. And the card preview, like I mentioned earlier, this is really the same code what I've got in my main component, iterating using for each through the card list, and again using Visual Picker to render the card. So very simple copy and paste. And at the bottom, as you can see here lighting input with type of the color, and that will give you the color picker. And at the bottom, we've got our checkbox. So that's the HTML for custom editor. Actually, I'm just going to go first to the XML. As you can see here, this is just the standard. You don't have to do anything on here. And I just want to point it out that is exposed could be leave it to false. You can set up to true. It won't change anything, but you can leave it to false and still this will work. Okay, looking on the JS side, we've got some vars, and again, this is kind of copy of the config of our configuration information, card list again for rendering the card preview, and the header, description, and the value. And I set up default value for the type of the card to be single selection. For the getters, there's only 2 getters, and this stayed just for the combo boxes, as you can see, grid size, and for the card type, multi and single. Handlers. Okay, we've got few handlers. They just standard handlers for lighting inputs. As you can see here, this one just for the forced free, for the header, description, and the value. This one is for the checkbox, grabbing the name, if it's checked or unchecked. And this patch config, I will talk about this shortly because all this method, we've got that helper. On the handler remove, this is the handler for clicking that remove cards on the card preview, which I showed you earlier. We can add the card and we can remove it. So just basic stuff, I'm just filtering and grabbing the cards which they are not equal to ID pass by the card which has been selected. And I'm just creating new object with that card list to render this. And of course, I'm updating the value for my config. So every time I will do some changes, my config will be updated as well. You know, if I will remove the card or add the cards and etc. And of course, I've got handler for add new card, which that's standard method for array, just pushing the card with all the values into it. And again, I am just updating that config and actually notifying that there's new cards and applying that array. Next, just resetting the value. So when I will add the new card, the old value would be resetted. So nothing special. And this config, what this config actually does, this is that helper, or I'm calling helper method because I'm using it in a few places. This is just the custom event. And to actually tell the flow builder, actually, you have updated this property, this variable, which we specify in the XML file. You have to fire custom event, and the name of the event, it has to be exactly typed in, as you can see here. Configuration underscore editor underscore input underscore value underscore change. Second most important thing in this custom event, the bubbles has to be set up to true, and compose has to be set up to true as well. For the details, this name has to match the name specified here. And as you can see, this is type of string, and this has to match as well. This is the string as well. And of course, the value, you have to pass the string. So I know this is my object, but I know the data type I have to pass to that property is the string, so I just use the JSON stringifier to get data type as string. And of course, this is just standard stuff, checking if it's null. If it's not null, do a stringifier, otherwise apply null. So won't get any error if there is no value. And as normally you will do, you will just dispatch this event. Okay, so that's very important, and that's how you actually write back all the changes, all configuration into that one single property. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so I would like to talk, there is few Flow Builder API. I don't know if anybody's seen this before, but I just want to talk about 2 of them. One of them I'm using, and I will tell you what I'm doing with and why I have to use this. And the second, I just want to mention because it's very powerful. This actually builder context, if you specify builder context with the API decorator, this will hold entire configuration for all your flow. And I will show you later an example. It will contain all the information, all the variables, all the loops, constant, formula field, everything, screens, all elements in the flow. It's those two APIs are read-only, but still to get the information for entire flow in your CP could be very, very useful. And that input variables, what that does, it's allowing you to get back information from your property, from this property. Where is that? This one here. From this config property. And as you can see here, I specify role input only. And this one is output only. Okay. If you want to specify the role, actually the property would be input and output. It would be both. But if you will specify this as an input only, when you call that API, you can find this property inside with the value. And that's what we have to do in our callback. Because if you can imagine, we have configured our custom editor. We add 10 cards. And next day, we need to add another 2. How you will get the value for those 10 cards back? So the one way how you can do this is to use these input variables, find the name of your property. And when you get the value, this is the syntax you have to actually use to get the value itself from that property, param and end param.value. And here again, what I do, just checking if it's not null or null. And I know I save this as a JSON object or JSON object stringifier. So that would be JSON in the string format. So I can, if it exists, it means definitely it's an object. So I can parse it back, JSON.parse from that param value, and I'm getting back my object. And after that, I can grab all the card lists. So actually, when you click card preview in your custom editor, that's where this is reading from. I just put it free console log to demonstrate this config, object, input, and builder context. And this is what I would like to show you next. Okay, so looking here. Okay, I'm just gonna. Oops. Just gonna open the component. I need to only click on this. Okay, so as I mentioned before, all our configuration would be held in that one single property. So if you can imagine, you would like to specify, like I mentioned earlier, you would like to add option to reorder the card, to actually edit the card, to specify the width, height, and etc. You can put everything into that one property. You don't have to add any more properties into your XML file, and everything would be held here. And as you can see here, we've got all information we need just in one parameter. Background color, font color description, grid size, group name is required. And I want to point it out. I mentioned earlier at the beginning that I would prefer to work with the string data type instead of, for example, Boolean value. And the reason for that actually in the object you can specify that Boolean value perfectly fine with true or false. So you don't need to use that property. So you don't need to create another second, third, and fourth property to keep this value inside. So you can use the object itself. The input variables. Okay, so well, we've got only one input variable specify, and this is that config. And as you can see here, this is in the string format, value data type string, and it's holding all information which we can see above in the object. Okay, but this is of course the string format. So as you've seen before, you can grab that value and using .parse, and that will get you your object back from that input variable API. And my favorite one, it's builder context. Okay, and as you can see here, if you have choices, constant, decision, formula, loops, delete, radio, rollbacks, everything, all the information for your entire flow would be safe in this builder context. As you can see here, we've got 5 screens. So I can dig in just to check, and all information about the screen, the name, and etc. would be saved in that API. We've got one create element, create record. And as you can see here, we've got the name, label, even location, even assignments. So what fields we are creating. We've got fields, values. So all the information. So this value is coming from accessories element, and that is our output value, which I mentioned you earlier. You have to dispatch that event to save this information or selected card or cards into that property, output value. Okay, so that's all for the demo. I also have got, I would like to show you more advanced CP. That will be one of my components from my package. Hopefully that package soon would be available on App Exchange. There will be approximately 1 or 2 apps and 15 different components. And we can jump into the flow. Okay, so this is very simple flow. We've got 2 screens, just get properties, get records for opportunities. I don't know if that was render. Okay, so I call this MC lookup. This is just the lookup element. You can put on the screen, start searching through opportunity, find the record, select it, all good. But to actually specify, or actually, you can use this in many places. It's very reusable and very dynamic element. So you can specify, as you can see here, header. You can specify the placeholder. You can choose the object. So you can put this 5, 6 on the same screen. You can specify different objects. And this will read dynamically from your org. You can specify also fields. So the first one, it's searchable field. And you can specify the middle one and the bottom one. So that all 3 fields would be visible when you're searching through the records. You can also specify the fields which they would be outputted. So you would have access on the other screen. Not necessarily you would like to have access to the all fields, so you've got a choice. After that, you can give if search is case sensitive or not. You can specify this as well. Avoid shield encryption. Does anybody works before with shield encryption in Salesforce? So if you want to do query in Apex, you can't really put this into where clause because it's not going to work. If you will tick that button, I will do the magic and it will happen. You can also use fetch data collection, or if you tick this box, it will give you the combo box with all collection available in your flow, but only with the data type opportunity, because that object you have selected. And if you untick this box, it will search through all your records on opportunity. What else we have here? We can also choose auto select. So when your screen is loaded, maybe you want to choose records, I don't know, first from the collection or maybe selected records. So you can choose this as well, and I will show you this actually in action. And you can actually even choose different collection for it. So you've got a lots of options here. You can also select if you would like to keep, or if default you would like to select selected record or first from collection maybe. We've got some other option like fire lighting message. So actually every time you select something, if you'll tick that box, you can grab by another component on the screen, and you will get all the information needed, including actually related record. And I will show you, this is just below it. In one call, you can get also information for your related record. So as you can see here, I choose the opportunity, and now dynamically, I've got access to my related record. So I would like to, I don't know, on the other screen, have also owner, for example, I don't know, country. I would like to have option to get the email of the owner. So actually, you don't have to go and again search for this record. It could be done directly from that MC lookup component. What else do we have?
We have. Doing it with nested Stockwell?
Sorry?
Are you doing it with nested Stockwell in your query in the background?
Well, unfortunately, this is a package I won't be able to show you. No. But it does, yeah, it does. It does another kind of query, but this is in the one query, so it's not running twice. You can also specify if user would be able to add new records. So for example, if he won't find record he is searching for, if he is able to add new record or not. You can even specify default for record type. Unfortunately, I've got just master. Well, I've got only one record type, so I won't show you. But if there would be more record type here, it will that combo box will render, and you can choose one of the record type be as a default. Or you've got an option also to give option to the user to select actually record type when he's creating new record from that MC lookup. And actually, this is completely, actually you can specify what field he's going to add it. So this is not reading from any layout. So by specifying the fields here and the order, you're actually specifying the separate layout, which is used by that function over here. So you can actually specify kind of your custom layout here as well. And we've got some search sensitivity, free settings. That it's more likely I had some requirements. This component is used in some few companies, very big companies in production. And I had they asked me to actually change this a little bit because they were querying over 15,000 records. So I did some magic here, and by manipulating this, when you start searching over 50,000 records, it's working a little bit much smoother, okay? Because otherwise, yeah, 50,000 records, it's big data sets. And we've got some, of course, styling. You can put left, center, right. You can apply even valid CSS. You can choose from the icon type. And this is all available icons in Salesforce. Selection required. Sounds familiar? This is the same what we use in our example, the cards. So if user would be able to go to another screen without selecting or not. And we can specify that validation text, so that's dynamic. If he didn't select anything, we can specify this. We can apply some color if he didn't find anything. And we can apply, of course, full CSS styling as well. So a lot of options, a lot of configuration, but at the same time, it will give you the component which could be used anywhere almost. If you will find there is some option missing, just let me know, I will add it. Okay, so, and the last one. I'm adding this to all my components. I found out this very useful. Some company calls me and they ask me, we don't know what does it say? Debug and deployed mode. So they ask me, we don't know what's going on in the background. So I was thinking, okay, yeah, you're probably right. You would like to see what's happening. So when you turn this to the debug mode, what will happen? You'll get a lot of information in the console. How many records you're searching through, what record has been selected. You can see what LMS has been fired, et cetera, et cetera. So it's quite handy when you start developing the component, especially when you use the package and you don't know what's happening in the background. So I have started adding this into all my components, which, yeah, I get the feedback. That's very, very nice feature. So I'm just going to show you quickly and run this. It's very simple. This is just the lookup. But as you can see, I just added, 20, 30 maybe options, which makes this lookup not standard. But through the searching, of course, I will show you first functionality. This field is required. Okay, so, we can start searching. And as you can see here, I specify three information I would like to see when I'm searching. Opportunity name, stage, and type. So I can see straight away. So for example, you're using this for the searching contacts. there is 2 contacts, 5 contacts named Lukasz, but the email address would be unique, so you can add it, you can see straight away. So selection is more intuitive for the user. So University of SA, we can go to another screen, and of course we've got our value back. But what is interesting, what would happen when you press preview, usually on your component, on your lookup? Because it will render, it will lose your value. Mine, it won't. You can specify this, and I will show you how hard it's actually to delete this value. Refresh it, the value will stay. Even clear cache and everything, the value will stay. Okay, so if you can imagine, you've got 5 screens. Third screen, it's your lookup or my lookup, MC lookup. The user will go to the summary screen and say, oh, actually, I forgot. On the first screen, I specify something wrong. Coming back and going back again, he will lose always information. Most of my components, which I'm developing and how I'm developing, I'm giving the option that this value could be retained. So actually, the user can come back to the first, fill it in, change something, and later, going through 5 screens, using those components, he doesn't have to add this information again, which I think it's quite handy. So yeah, that's all what I have prepared for today. I don't know if there's any questions or queries.
If you were dynamically instantiating components programmatically, would you still be able to set those properties programmatically as well? So are they set up so that they're accessible from code as well as from the UI? So that if you wanted to have that range of properties that you've set in there, but, you know, you had a scenario where you needed to dynamically create them from code, are they still visible effectively?
But from the code, when you're saying from the code, you mean from Apex? Or from
Apex, or from JavaScript, whatever.
Oh, from JavaScript, yes.
Either way, if you want to just like dynamically instantiate components, which happens sometimes in some scenarios, are the properties visible in the same way, or do you have to kind of instantiate them somehow and then? I don't even know how you do that because they're dynamic, so they're kind of a bit ephemeral at that point.
But what would be the scenario when you would like to do that? Okay, you've got, for example, we've got that cards which I showed you earlier. What scenario you would like to take this card and instantiate it somewhere else?
If you wanted to, like get a collection of X number of objects and render a card for each one, right? So you're not, you don't know in advance like how many is going to be in there. So you maybe just like some sort of loop where it's just say generate a card for each of these on a page.
Not sure. I think if you build something custom, it might be possible, but I have to think about this one.
It's just more about the visibility and scope of the properties. Do they exist outside of the CCE?
They exist in the flow builder. When you run the flow, it's accessible everywhere. If you build your custom logic or custom another component or something else, but outside of the flow, they do not exist. Another question or queries?
The context you are showing, is it tied to the session? So that
the builder context?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if I have the collection, selection of the cards, if I re-log in through the session, so would that still persist?
Yeah, so for example, I can just really quickly show you. So if I will add here, I don't know, maybe not create records, get records. Get records, ACC. Okay, got all the accounts. Okay, all the records. Console. Yeah, whatever you create in your flow, it's going to be always visible Where's the get records? Records updates. Must be somewhere. Let's say what else. Am I missing this somewhere? Okay, I can't see now this, but this
You have record created, record release, record lookups.
Ah, yes, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, that's good. Yeah, so
A bit of audience participation.
yeah, no, it's good. I'm just checking if they are asleep or not. So yeah, so I can see everybody smiling. So all good. As you can see here, anything what you will do in the flow, any single formula field, any single field you're gonna add with the value and everything, that builder context is gonna hold. So like I said, it's only read only property, so you can't really save anything into it, but you can read it back everything. So if you, especially that's handy when you start creating components and you would like to dynamically know, I don't know, iterate through something. Okay, so it's very similar what I'm using here. And this is how actually my components know. If I choose the opportunity, how this drop down, it's filling only with collection with opportunity. So what I do in the background, I'm just looping through all the elements, all the get records, checking the type, opportunity, because this is my selected object, and only I'm showing the option to choose the opportunity, because otherwise, if I will give all the option, I know admins, so apologize, they will probably choose account, even if they'll choose opportunity object, yeah? And some people do that. So just to be fully bulletproof, I just prefer to do this way, yeah? And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm checking that builder context variable.
You have set some offsets and limits on how many records you want to pull or you want to show. Is it configurable or is it the static?
The cards?
No, not the cards. You have set some off limits, like you have 15,000 records. You are paginating them or?
Oh yes, well, if it's over 50,000, like I said, that functionality which I show you, this few settings, you can actually set up how many records you're gonna see on the screen. So that's already, you can limit it, because one time in the one company somebody told me, if you want to show more than 50,000 records, mean your query is wrong. How you can search and show 5,000 records? Nobody's gonna, search through that. So looking, for example, on one of the settings, you can see here, if you specify 0, it will output it all records. But you can specify, for example, you want to only be visible or displayable only 300. So yeah, that changing these 3 different sliders, you actually from 50,000 records, you can make much more smoother experience for the user when they start searching in the large data set.
And this is impacting the related records as well, or this is only for the opportunity?
Yeah, this is for opportunity, but like I mentioned, there is no problem. So for example, you can go and I can specify account, but if I will do that, I don't have collection. But what I can do, I can just untick this box and that will go through all the accounts records in my org. And again, I have to specify all the fields, and that's dynamically changed. As you can see here now, it has been resetted, and you've got all fields for the accounts. Okay, so this is just an example of advanced CPE, and yeah, I think you have enjoyed the video or enjoyed this presentation, and hopefully you'd be creating some. Oh, okay, yeah. There's one more question.
Interject and say we probably. I can see there's more questions, but we are running.
Oh, we can meet later, or like I said, we can contact.
I have one question for you to plug yourself.
Okay.
Say that you have something coming to the App Exchange soon.
Yes. Yeah.
When is that coming, and how much are you charging?
Okay, that will be free. Oh. I'm talking to Salesforce. I already got my PBO org. Actually, actually, this is production. So yeah, I've got the PB.org, and I'm talking to Salesforce to actually, has been even approved my listing, so I can put it this way. So once they will remove my expiry date from my PB.org, I would be ready to send all my components for security review, and after that they would be available.
So 2030 it will be.
No, it should be sooner. There is 2 Microsoft add-ins as well. They would be visible, including that package. For approval, for events, and etc. If you want to find out more, connect me with LinkedIn. I posted all the videos for the components I'm doing for Salesforce and also for Microsoft package. But all this add-in for Microsoft, they are connecting to Salesforce as well. So yeah, Excel and some old look.
I'm glad we allowed that question because that was really good. I think we should all give Lukasz a big round of applause.
Thank you.